Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and in today's video it's kind of a battle of the old versus the new. I'm playing in the original Tier 8 Premium Heavy Tank, it's the KV-5, and we're playing against a Defender on the enemy team. Now the KV-5, as I said, one of the original Tier 8 Premium tanks, and this was all balanced around having a premium vehicle that was weaker than its Tier 8 counterpart, but it had preferential matchmaking, so it never had to meet Tier 10 tanks, and more often than not it would be getting matchmaking like this against Tier 6s, Tier 7s, and some Tier 8s. Now that the matchmaker has changed, so this is a very rare occurrence when you actually get to have this kind of 3-5-7 kind of matchup. The KV-5 definitely struggles, and Wargaming now have put in premium vehicles like the Defender that can hold up just as well against Tier 9 and even Tier 10 tanks. If this thing could meet Tier 10, it would almost be laughable in a way. So the KV-5, why do I think that this is probably one of the best premium designs? Well, firstly, it looks ridiculous. Does that make it a good tank because it looks ridiculous? Well, yes, because you have something that's completely different to anything else in the tech tree. I don't know about you guys, but while I enjoy getting British premium heavy tanks like the Carnarvon Action 10, it's pretty much just like a Carnarvon with some spaced armor on it. It looks a little different. But this thing is completely novel. There's nothing really in the game that looks like the KV-5, and I think that's why it was a bit of a fan favorite. Well, it was also a fan favorite because this thing was cheap. It cost 7,500 gold. Good luck trying to buy a Tier 8 premium tank that costs 7,500 gold. Because I think the Lerva was like about 10 or 12k, and so lots of people thought, well, I'll just buy the great KV-5 and then I can train up my Soviet heavy tank crews as well at the same time. Like KV-5, because it was cheap and because it had preferential matchmaking, in turn it was enabled the vehicle to be worse than its Tier 8 counterparts, like the IS-3 for example. The IS-3 is by far a better tank than the KV-5 is. There are very few things that the KV-5 does better, although one of them is the damage per minute on the vehicle, but pretty much everything else, apart from just the raw thick armor that this tank has, is worse than an IS-3. And so, I loved playing against KV-5s. Yeah, that's right. What happens now when you see premium tanks on the enemy team? You think, oh god, there's a Defender on the enemy team, he's overpowered, he's just going to crush my entire team, right? Well, back in the day when you had KV-5s, IS-6s, and other preferential matchmaking vehicles, you actually quite liked seeing them on the enemy team, especially when you were in a Tier 6 or Tier 7 tank, because you knew that they were slightly weaker than their regular counterparts, and so you could take advantage of this, and you could try and go for that meaty experience bonus of plus 10% per level that the higher, well, per tier that the opponent is. So if you're in a Cromwell and you do 1,000 damage to a KV-5, that's the equivalent of doing, I guess, 1,200 damage to an equal tier tank. And that's substantial. When you manage to take one of these things on, then you definitely could take on one of these things with its awful radio weak point on the front of the vehicle, like this R2-D2 droid. It was just so rewarding. Now, if I see a Defender on the enemy team, I'm in a Cromwell, I'm practically crying because I know firstly I'm going to have to dab the 2 key, secondly he can shoot me twice to be able to take me out, and I have to pretty much get to the side or even the rear of his vehicle to stand a chance. And it's pretty quick, he'll be able to whack in shots right into your weak points while you're moving from the side, even though I don't think he really had that much of an indication that I'd be coming. But then again, probably the Type 59 actually had me spotted there. It's just a complete different kind of tank design. The funny thing is a lot of people might be thinking, well, surely if the KV-5 was that bad, then why would people buy it, right? I guess that's what Wargaming thinks as well. But the thing is because there weren't so many premium overpowered tanks in the game, people they didn't have a choice. They had to get the KV-5. And what that meant is that they were happy anyway, because you were making so many credits, and credits were so precious. The fact that you could go into a KV-5, that you could play the tank like an absolute derp, and you would more often than not come out of the battle with even 10,000 credits, 20,000 credits if you didn't have a premium account. And if you're running a premium account, you're probably packing more like 30 or 40 even in a mediocre game. And in your great games, then you were starting to push the boundaries of up to a 6-figure profit. But those days are gone, at least with regards to being able to buy something that's so economic. Now it feels like we've got credit boosters, we've got a whole variety of premium vehicles, and they're incredibly strong and they can go in and they can really mop up. But people were just happy playing the KV-5 because it was really one of the only choices you had for a premium vehicle. And so the player who purchased the tank were happy, The players who were playing against the tank were happy because they felt like that they had an advantage against the vehicle, or at least that they stood a chance against them. I think that's really the key point. They stood a chance against them. And so for me personally, it was kind of this golden age of premium tank design. I thought preferential matchmaking tanks enabled standard players to stand a chance against premium players. And while this isn't something that's new that I'm bringing up just now, I've talked about it on the channel before. It's something that I just really wanted to highlight once again. And I'll tell you one thing that Wargaming has done over the last year as well is they've actually seemed to be, I'm not sure if you guys have noticed this, but it feels like the kind of defender tanks, it feels like those kind of vehicles are starting, the Patriots, they're starting to dwindle in the game a little bit. And I feel that a lot of the premium vehicles that are coming into the game seem to be at least a little bit more balanced. I know they're starting to push the boundaries with things like the Progetto, and maybe even the EBR 75, but all in all, I don't really see any new defenders going into the game. Just absolutely wild, overpowered premium tanks that suddenly destroy the meta, right? Whether Wargaming has got something new upcoming, maybe with the double-barrel vehicles, of course, they've hinted there's going to be a premium tank there. But as we've seen with the statistics of the double-barrel tanks, if they stay as they are and they don't get massively buffed before they introduce them at an unknown time in the future, wow, it's looking like maybe Wargaming is starting to get their balancing department right. So the KV-5 inside this game, what did I need to do? Well, as you saw, I needed to blitz my way down one of the flanks as quickly as I possibly could, because I thought that defender was going to crush my team. I was actually massively surprised that my team managed to handle themselves against the defender just so darn well, and that actually ended up with me being able to mop up the flank quickly and still have a lot of my team alive. And from there on, it's just using this wonderful rate of fire with this 107mm. Sure, this tank doesn't have the penetration. It used to have 167mm of penetration, actually, to be exact. Now the vehicle has 186 on its standard rounds, which, while it's better, it's definitely not great when you're in your mediocre matchups, right? And so the way I like to play my KV-5 is just this big old meatball. I like to try and take the pressure off my team. And if I can take the pressure off my team, then usually I'm able to maybe not often have the biggest impact in the battle, at least reliably. But it allows my team to be able to hopefully excel, because when you take the pressure off players, quite often they can do remarkable things, or at least they can play their game and you don't have any surprises. And when people aren't surprised because they're not getting overwhelmed with a superior number of enemy forces, then they're just going to have better rounds, right? And so that's really what I try to do when I play my KV-5. Another thing as to why I love playing this tank is because my expectations in it are just so darn low. I don't really have huge expectations for the KV-5. In this battle, I absolutely adored it, because I honestly felt like I was an underdog compared to the enemy team. We saw a defender on the enemy team. I'm in a KV-5. That's in a vehicle that was from loot boxes last year, or it's not even freely available because of just how darn powerful the defender is, right? This vehicle, sure, I guess you can pick it up when Wargaming sells it, but I wonder if this was even in the loot box if people would want it. I'll be as bold as to say that nobody would really care about the KV-5. But that still doesn't mean that you can't have fun in it. And more importantly, it means that you are the underdog. And when you're the underdog and you've got absolutely no pressure on you, it just feels oh so much more rewarding and remarkable when you get through the battle. And finally, your team manages to finish off the T-3485M. So this was a steel wall and a high caliber for the KV-5 for the near 4,000 damage that we dealt. And woof, look at that experience, 1,447 for the 18 hits that we received. We managed to block 2,400. And because I don't remember at least firing many premium rounds in this battle, that's 97,000 credits profit in a sub 9-minute round. And so the KV-5, am I suggesting that this is the most powerful premium tank you can get in the game right now? No, it's really not. However, if you use the tank to its strengths, i.e. its armor and its ability to take the pressure off the team, and just play it with a laissez-faire kind of attitude, an all-in approach, as in, I'm just going to try and isolate somebody and bully them and just keep going and try and ride my luck and use the vehicle as a bit of a breaching tool for your team, then yeah, you can still do awesome in the tank. But you'd have to be a raving lunatic to want to play the KV-5 instead of something like the Object 252U, that's for sure. And I just truly hope that this year has not been a coincidence, but a decision by Wargaming to really try as hard as they can to balance out their premium vehicles, as I for one truly appreciate it. And I think the community would probably agree, right? Anyway, ladies and gents, that was old versus new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. But if you hated it, give the video a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, out of the 574 of you who voted, you want to see the British heavy tanks. And so let's rock and roll. I'm going to be playing from tier 1 to tier 10, down some of the best hold down heavies that you can play in the game, culminating with the Super Conqueror with all of its spaced protection. And so come along right now as I showcase the entirety of the line so you can see if it's worth grinding, or alternatively, if you already have the vehicles, maybe I can give you a few tips and tricks along the way. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.